For those of you who have never met me before, my name is Ben Cairns. I'm running for House District. I've lived here since 2009. I've been in the district the entire time I've been in the state of Georgia. I was transplanted here by the grace of God in the military, and my family called this place home. I have a wife, 3 children, unfortunately 4 dogs, soon to be a cat. I'm a former Marine, never an ex-Marine, right? Hoorah! Hoorah. I have my oldest son, also a former Marine. We have a long history of military in my family. I'm a professor over at Georgia Military College. I teach political science, economics, American history. So to the educators in the room, I fully understand what we're talking about here with education, and I don't want to stomp on anybody's thunder over that. But it is a vital part, right? I see it every single day, the lack of civility, the lack of education, the lack of civics knowledge. It's front and center. So, I'm going to get down to the basics. A multitude of opinions over a lot of specific issues. The first one is economic policy. I want to bring Georgia in line with the other 9 states that have eliminated the income tax within the state. But that's not it. I also want to eliminate property tax.
Absolutely.
Nobody should ever have to lose their home because they didn't pay a tax. You know, we look at Tennessee as the example. Tennessee is doing a pretty darn good job. Texas is another example. Texas is doing pretty well on that. Florida to the south. And I hear people all the time talk about the fact that, well, we're not a destination state. We can't do stuff like that. Sales tax is a tax on sales, right? That's economic activity. That's GDP. Georgia has twice the GDP of Tennessee. Yes, we have twice the budget, we have twice the GDP. There is no reason why we can't organize our state under a consumption-based model. Neil Bortz, when he was on the radio, he was a big proponent of the fair tax, right?
Right.
It gets proposed in Congress and killed at the national level all the time. It's on the ballot for the primary as a question, should we move towards a fair tax model? And to address the issues with seniors, there's carve-outs for those areas. There's carve-outs for people who are low income, who are homeless, are seniors on fixed incomes. They're not going to pay taxes on necessities. So it's addressed within the fair tax model, if that's the direction we go. But I'm a big proponent of consumption-based taxes because it brings everybody into the fold. You're not hiding money at that point in time. You're not looking for tax deductions or loopholes, as they call them. You're consuming products and you're paying a reasonable sales tax for that consumption. So that's the first kind of pillar of my policy model. The second one kind of addresses the issue that was brought up before in the conversation about lawfare. We need to have some reasonable judicial reform within the state. We cannot have, and this is not just district attorneys. Luckily, we have a very good district attorney here. And I'll let you know that Bobby Christine is an alumnus of Georgia Military College. But we can't have activist DAs, we can't have activist public servants who don't fulfill their oath of office. It doesn't matter if it's a county commissioner, it doesn't matter if it's a coroner. If they're not following Georgia state law, they don't need to hold their position. And yes, the impeachment rules at the state level are very prohibitive, given our divided state that we're in. My proposal is we take the top legal authority in the state, which is the state attorney general, who's responsible for upholding law in the state of Georgia, and give them the power to make recommendations of any public official within the state, I don't care at what level. If they're not upholding their oath of office, they make a recommendation to the General Assembly, and under a simple majority vote, we remove them from office until a new election is held. A simple majority vote. That does not mean due process is violated here. Whoever gets removed from office can have their day in court. If the court determines they did uphold their oath of office, then they can be reinstated. But we can't be held hostage. Public safety cannot be held hostage by a 2/3 majority. Impeachment is not the only legal means by which we can massage this situation. We can find ways within the Georgia Constitution to authorize us to protect our citizens. Okay? So that's the second leg. I want a lot of judicial reform. The third one is education. Education is vitally important to me. From the state level, we need to reform what we're requiring our students to learn. We need to get back to reading, writing, arithmetic. We need to eliminate social and cultural shifts from our curriculum. It's not needed in the classroom. We can have those debates outside of classrooms. We can have interest groups. We can have everything going on within our communities outside of the classroom, but we have to protect traditional values and education in our public schools. The Georgia Constitution speaks to that very thing. We are a higher law tradition state, which means that we take our consent of government from God. The preamble of the Georgia Constitution says that we rely on the guidance of Almighty God. We have to protect those values. There's a lot of things that we can do in the state of Georgia from a state level. Some of the ballot initiatives that are going to be on the ballot, I think, are kind of important to have a stance on from these candidates. One that comes up all the time, incorporation of Columbia County. Why? That's my big question. Why? What's wrong right now that we have to become a city? Under the Georgia Constitution, municipalities have a few more things they can do than a county level government. One of the ones that came up in the article, county manager, I think his name's Johnson, pointed this out in the article. They can get a franchise tax on utilities. I think he pointed out something like $8.4 million the county's leaving on the table from just Georgia Power, because Georgia Power would have to pay a franchise to a city. So is incorporation about making Columbia County better, or is incorporation about growing our local government? Right? So to me, it's a no vote if I'm in the General Assembly on authorizing a ballot vote for the people to incorporate Columbia County. I would not allow that to take place. There's a push towards manipulating our elections, and this was brought up before. Why would we move towards a ranked choice voting system?
Never.
Did anyone see what happened in Alaska? That is not the way Georgia needs to go. We need secure elections. We need to unplug the vote. We need paper ballots. We need election day, not election season. We only need to use absentee ballots for the purpose that they were originally intended for, which is people who cannot physically make it or they are overseas like our military. We need to bring integrity back into our elections so that we trust the system. Right now, no one in Georgia trusts the system on either side. So to conclude, there are 5 of us running in this race, and I realize we're all Republicans. We all believe in less government, less taxes, less regulation, moderation of government. But each of us are going to have individual stances on all these topics, and I think if you're an informed voter, you need to find out from each one of us if our stances agree with yours. So I encourage everybody before the May 21st primary, and of course early voting starts next week, research all of us. Ask us questions. Don't vote based off of who has the most signs or the largest signs or the most radio ads. Some of us are doing this out of our back pocket because we want to serve, not because we want to profit. Some of us don't want to be a permanent politician. Public service is just that. It should be out of humility. It should be out of service to others. And when the others, meaning the constituents, decide that you no longer fit their need, then it's time for us to go. Okay? So, before in early voting or on May 24th or May 21st, please vote for me, Ben Cairns, House District 131.